Storm Ali batters Northern Ireland and Scotland, leaving 2 people dead across Ireland. The storm has caused severe damage across Northern Ireland and the Republic. As winds reached up to 140 miles per hour, around 200,000 people have been left without electricity and more than 50 flights have been grounded. In Scotland, a cruise liner off the coast had to be rescued and people battled heavy wind and rain as they tried to go about their daily tasks. US President Donald Trump has promised that North and South Carolina would have strong federal support as they recover from the devastation of Hurricane Florence. Trump, who has been criticized for his handling of Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico last year, met with residents of hard-hit New Bern, where he helped distribute food, shook hands and hugged the volunteers at the rescue camps. Canadian Foreign Minister Chrystia Freeland has responded to the remarks of a key U.S. legislator on North American trade agreement. Freeland suggested that her government would not be pressured to conclude prematurely a framework for a renegotiated trade agreement. Freeland also stated that the art of compromise has long been a trait of Canadians, but that the core objective of a negotiation would remain the Canadian national interest. U.S. Republican Steve Scalise has warned the House would proceed on a bilateral trade agreement between the U.S. and Mexico and cut Canada out of the deal. French President Emmanuel Macron has pledged to do better and act more to pay tribute to the victims of the terrorist assaults that had rocked one of Europe's leading powerhouses. Furthermore, Macron has announced the creation of a memorial museum of terrorism and an official commemoration to be celebrated every year. He has also promised to improve financial aid to the victims, in addition to the creation by year-end of a Natural Resources and Resilience Center in order to better take in charge all the victims suffering psychological trauma. British Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt began a 2-day official visit to Myanmar to discuss the Rohingya crisis. Hunt has scheduled to meet for talks with the country's leader Aung San Suu Kyi today. Ahead of the trip, Hunt said Britain would increase its support to gather evidence for Rohingya victims who have suffered sexual violence at the hands of the military in the Rakhine state. Hunt is also scheduled to visit northern Rakhine. Hungary's foreign minister hit out at UN human rights experts and accused them of spreading lies about his country. According to the minister, Hungary has the right to keep out illegal migrants. A UN rights watchdog had called on the government in April to repeal a law allowing migrants to be deported without a chance to seek asylum. Hungary has built a fence around Hungary's southern border to keep out migrants and has been one of the strongest opponents to immigration into the European Union. German Chancellor Angela Merkel called on for friendliness and respect in the negotiations between Britain and the European Union, seeking close ties after Brexit. With just over 6 months to go until Britain leaves the EU, both sides are keen to secure some kind of deal on future relations before the end of the year to avert a disruptive cliff-edge exit from EU agreements and institutions. Austrian Chancellor Sebastian Kurz has called on Britain to be more flexible in the Brexit negotiations after the EU's chief negotiator offered compromises. In a news briefing before the start of a summit with the bloc's leaders, Kurz said that he believes that a hard Brexit with no deal would be difficult for Europe, but it would be terrible for the UK. Austria holds the European Union's rotating presidency. He also mentioned that he was still optimistic for a deal, however. Russian President Vladimir Putin tested a new sniper rifle produced by a Russian manufacturing company during a visit to the company's shooting range outside Moscow. The semi-automatic rifle was first shown during a military forum in 2017. A video aired by Russian television showed Putin aiming and making several shots at the Kalashnikov's shooting range.
Они олицетворяли мощь армии и флота, созданием перспективных образцов вооружения этих, к реализации действующей программы. Оно нас рассчитано.
15 Liberians, including the son of former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, are banned from leaving the country while the government investigates the whereabouts of $104 million in missing cash intended for the central bank. A series of shipments of notes ordered by Liberia's central bank from printers overseas have disappeared since last year after passing through the country's main ports. The missing amount is the equivalent of nearly 5% of the West African country's GDP. Thousands of Argentines took to the streets of Buenos Aires as they marched to the Energy Secretary to demand lower service costs for utilities. The government has been battling an economic crisis that has battered the peso currency and led to fiscal belt tightening. In June, Argentina signed a $50 billion standby deal with the International Monetary Fund that projected a 2019 primary fiscal shortfall of 1.3% of GDP, but the currency slid 26% in August alone, forcing President Macri to renegotiate stricter fiscal targets with the fund. Palestinian employees of the UN Relief and Works Agency protested against job cuts. The demonstrators donned orange jumpsuits and conducted a mock jailing and hanging to dramatize their point. They marched to the UN headquarters in Gaza City holding banners that read, "Employees' rights are not for bargaining." UNRWA has said that it faces a shortfall of more than $200 million after the United States slashed funding earlier this year, having promised $365 million for the whole year. South Korean President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un have agreed to turn the Korean peninsula into a land of peace without nuclear weapons and nuclear threats on the second day of the Inter-Korean Summit in Pyongyang. South Korean president also said that North Korea has agreed to permanently destroying its main nuclear complex at Yongbyon after the United States takes corresponding measures. The Islamabad High Court has ordered the release of ousted Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and his daughter from jail, suspending their prison sentences for corruption. Supporters of former Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif celebrate and chanted Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. Outside the court, after the decision was announced, the convictions are still under appeal with the same Islamabad High Court, but the judge said they should be freed immediately while the case continues. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff General Qamar Javed Bajwa in Beijing. Xi said that China appreciates the support and security assurance Pakistan has provided for the construction of the Belt and Road and the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. He said that China and Pakistan should continue to enhance coordination in regional and global affairs and support each other on issues concerning each other's core interests. Afghan President Ashraf Ghani, at an event in India's capital, New Delhi, has said that his nation's as well as the region's stability was affected by transnational militant and criminal networks. The Afghan president made the comments while addressing a gathering in New Delhi. During the event, Indian Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad, Aviation Minister Suresh Prabhu and junior foreign ministers were also present. Ghani, who was on a day-long visit to India, arrived in New Delhi early in the day and was warmly received by Prime Minister Modi at Hyderabad House, where the two leaders held bilateral talks on various issues, including security. Authorities in the southern Iraqi city of Karbala tightened security in and around the holy Shiite city as Shiite pilgrims began gathering for the religious event of Ashura. Pilgrims wore black and beat their backs with steel chains to express their grief over the killing of Imam Hussein and his followers. Strict security measures were taken to prevent any disruption, with nearly 30,000 police officers deployed to the city. Hundreds of thousands of Shiites travel to Karbala for Ashura each year to commemorate the death of Imam Hussein. An online supermarket called Picnic targets middle-income shoppers and is the first to offer free delivery in the Netherlands, where online grocery shopping is booming. Picnic snagged an eye-catching €100 million investment last year, which it is using to fund a rapid expansion, including opening its first hub in Germany last month. The company prefers to invest in its software app and in its cheery electric vans, which contrast sharply with the diesel trucks used by competitors. Ohio's Cleveland Metro Parks Zoo has unveiled its latest addition to its animal kingdom family, an adorable eastern black baby rhino. The zoo has asked the public to help name the female calf by making donations as they cast votes for any of three names: Nia, Dahlia and Xena. The name with the most donation wins. The zoo says the calf is the second eastern black rhino birth in 2018. It says tens of thousands of black rhinos once roamed much of Africa, but that fewer than 5,000 remain now.